Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack. Back again to bring you the 5-mask solo healer vision run, giving you everything that you need to know to get your 5-mask clear and that sweet, sweet 470 corrupted guarantee. Alright, to start it off, prep work is quite important for this, and there are a couple of weakauras that I would highly recommend that you get beforehand. One of which you see in the middle left side of your screen that shows the Gift of the Titans buff. This is exceedingly important for a couple of different strats that we'll talk about a little bit later, and knowing when and how to proc it properly will make your life so much easier and your runs substantially more consistent. The other one is going to be that sanity tracker that you see on the right side of the screen, which will show you the charges of orbs you have remaining, but most importantly, it'll show you the time duration that you have for how long you can stay in each zone before you're going to lose all of your sanity to the natural drain effects of each zone. So when you're going through this, a couple of very important things to note are going to be some of the locations of the odd crystals. We'll show those too. It's not required for a 5-mask run, but that's the next step. That's the next extra bonus that you have access to. So what I did at the start of the run is I went to the left side first and went into the blacksmith hall to try to see if the blacksmith was home. If he's there and you kill him, you get a 10% damage buff. If he's not home, you can go over to the right side and kill Gammon for a stamina buff. This is quite important if you have it, for example, Twilight Devastation, as that'll be a nice damage increase as well. In the first hut on the right is a likely location for one of the odd crystals, as is the bank behind the teller's office. That's another good location as well. Depending on your cloak level of resistance, you're noticing that I'm taking a lot of time in the first valley here. The reason that I'm doing so is because I want to take advantage of the elite extermination from your tree and make sure that I'm encountering my first elite on the right side where I'm getting exactly 200 sanity. Now in the hut, the second hut on the left, the one just past the bank, you will see a dead NPC and he will be having a different colored potion right on top of him. That Gift of the Titans tracker also tracks how the potions, which potion is poisonous. That way you know which one is going to be giving you sanity. So in that case, the black potion was poisonous. So I clicked on the black icon in the weakaura itself, and then it went to show me that the green potion was the one that gave me sanity. The other effects are sort of like a kiss curse type of event. Some of them, for example, will give you like a breath of fire, a bit of damage every once in a while. But then once that expires, if you don't keep refreshing it, then you run around puking for a few minutes. It's important to kind of keep these in mind. If you're continuously refreshing them, then you never have to worry about those negative side effects. But overall, the biggest of deals is going to be having that bit of extra sanity. Now, as I'm doing this route, I opt to go to the drag first. The reason being is I want to make sure that I have a quick and early bloodlust for Rexxar, and with how you're able to chain together multiple elite mobs, it makes it very easy to avoid having to use many orbs in the first place, especially if you're able to chain together kebabs, which is crafted food that you can bring along with you. If you eat it for 10 seconds, you'll regain 100 sanity, which is really quite helpful for these runs, especially if you need just a little bit of extra sanity in order to get through a boss fight. The other one that you really want to look at is the Baked Void Fin, as that'll give you increased movement speed while you're in the run. Now, as you enter the drag, it's important to go into the transmog section first, as not only will that contain a void crystal, more often than not. The odd crystals are not guaranteed, but there's a lot of likely locations that you have for them. The transmog section is one of them, but if the clickable void field, the void gate, is open, you'll be able to go in, kill an NPC, and gain 10% crit strike bonus if you successfully kill her without too much hassle. Throughout the drag, you're kind of just bouncing all over the place this week with Scorched Feet, Grand Illusions. Just watch for the copy of yourself to make sure that you're not going to accidentally run into it. Also, keep in mind, on your right and left sides in between houses are a great deal of the potions. So keep your eyes open, see which potion is going to be proccing there. And also, while you're clearing the houses, make sure you're looking around for any of those odd crystals. Those odd crystals are usually pretty shiny, about like a small orange obelisk that you'll be able to see. And it's very important to make sure you grab those for some extra mementos if you have the time. As you move on, big priority mobs to focus on are going to be the Dominators, as they do have that Touch of the Abyss cast, which will stun you for a lengthy period of time. You also should watch out for the Mind Carvers, as their successive melee strikes will max out their energy. Once they're maxed out at energy, they fear you for 4 seconds with a shiv, and that is also extremely debilitating as well. Once you, of course, clear through this area, I opted to just start killing through all of the mobs. Once you have about level 12 or even 13 with your cloak, and you do have the Gift of the Titans buff, you have a lot more flexibility and a lot more time to really work with and make sure that you clear out all of the areas possible to look for the odd crystals. So, in my case, I'd already collected one from the transmog spot, so I kept on moving throughout the drag to see where the next one would be. Most of them are contained within the houses, so as you're clearing them out, it's good to be able to get in there, check where they might be, and then, as I mentioned, get some extra mementos along the way. Of course, whenever you're running with 5 masks, you do have Burn Bridge on, so it's very easy to drain a lot of sanity along the way. So, whenever you go into the first boss here, Inquisitor Nashal, if you push him quickly enough, you can immediately put up his orb. Big trick with the Void Torrent, though, is make sure you stand inside the hitbox of the boss. That way, the Void Torrent will go right past you, almost like it goes right over your shoulder, and then you just can stand still and continue DPSing. My second odd crystal was there by the teleporter, just past the boss, and I'm able to move on towards the next valley. And again, because you're able to very quickly go into that boss fight, what I try to make sure I do is clear through the trash, then look around for some odd crystals. That way I had my Mount Trinket, my Obsidian Claw, my Crucible of Flame Charges, plural, and then I was able to just completely focus and burn the boss very quickly to make sure that I would take him down. If the fight lasts a little bit longer, that's okay. You might have to deal with a bit of sanity drain if you can't quite break the shield, but usually it's not too much, around 18 or 20 sanity that you'll end up losing. But never fear, because once you kill that boss, you gain 200, and you go into the next valley, and you immediately encounter Misha, giving you another 200 sanity there. For Misha, just dispel the disease if you can, and make sure you run away from her fearsome cries. When playing with Mistweaver, I've done 5 mass clears with Mistweaver and Disc Priest at the moment, both of them solo. The priority is also on taking your time and knowing how many mobs that you can take. For Mistweaver especially, you have more armor than a Priest, but you also have stronger defensives in Dampen Harm and Fortifying Brew, along with Cocoon. So with all of these at your disposal, you can feel free to pull just a little bit larger, but it depends on what kind of corruptions that you're going to be running with as well to enhance your damage. I would never recommend running over 40 corruption for these solo runs. There's just too many little areas where you might get killed, and it makes it a little bit too easy just to drop low and die. You'll see a lot of times throughout these runs, I'm constantly around that 40 to 60% HP mark, and having a thing from beyond come to kill me would just completely sabotage the run. One of the odd crystal's most common hiding locations in this valley is underneath the bridge. You can set up a transcend if you can get out of there quickly. Try to do so whenever possible. And whenever you're dealing with these scarabs, it's also important to note that the poison debuffs that are coming, especially from the swarm leaders, but also from the venom weavers, can drop some really quick stuns and make it a lot more difficult for you to complete this as quickly. So try to pace yourself, get some separation, whether it's from knockbacks, whether it's from stuns, or simply just kiting away for a little bit, just to make sure that you can do that. I also make sure that even though I don't have to clear out this right side here, I opt to do so. That way, again, I get to maximize the sanity return out of my run. So what I want to make sure I do is I'm just about to hit that 375 mark, and then I will be able to go over and deal with the next elite. Also, taking advantage of those bonus sanity is incredibly helpful, because again, there's another odd crystal, and it's in the auction house. Taking extra time to go find the odd crystals in between elites is, one, a really good way to make sure that you have your cooldowns back, but two, it's another way to make sure that you have effective use out of your sanity. So you struggle less on boss fights because you'll have access to different cooldowns, especially, like I said, the Obsidian Claw and Crucible of Flame Charges, and on top of that, it makes sure that you have any defensive cooldowns that you might also need at your disposal as well. Whenever I go into this last pack, it's very important to start looking at that Gift of the Titans timer here, because you want to make sure that you're proccing that just as you kill the first boar that Rexxar will spawn. In my case, I came up the stairs and my Gift of the Titans procced mid-trash pull, so I take the time to start looking around and see if there's any other vials around the room that can help extend my sanity. I, for example, passed by just a defensive vial, right? So I just start looking around to either side, see if there is one present, and then I will be able to start taking my time, sit down, eat a kebab, and then I'll be able to take on Rexxar. Because having the Gift of the Titans buff is exceedingly important, because it'll allow you to be much more consistent on this boss fight. And in turn, that'll make sure that you don't have to worry about potentially using your auto res, and you can save more orbs later on if you're really quite efficient at it. Also, because it's Haunting Shadows week, I try to make sure that I wait for that shadow to appear at my feet, move away from it, let it detonate, and then I'll be able to eat my kebab, and then get that extra 100 sanity. So once Gift of the Titans is about to come back up, I make sure I get my potion, my bloodlust, I make sure I have all of my different scrolls ready, whether it's fort or intellect as well, to make sure I am absolutely, positively ready to go. The way you really want to do this is start slowly working Rexxar down. You notice I'm not using any of my Crucible charges at this point, and I want to make sure that I instantly switch targets, kill the first Huffer, and try to proc Gift of the Titans. In this case, I didn't, so I opt to wait once again for the next Huffer to spawn. Going into the next one, much to my joy, my happiness, I did end up proccing it. I have had runs where I didn't proc it off of either of them, but as you can see, at that point, once I proc Gift of the Titans, I switched gears, dropped my Obsidian Claw into the boss, and started pumping him as best as I could, because the other two Huffers, while they will deal some damage, they will not incur any sanity drain to you while the Gift of the Titans buff is up. If you don't have quite as much damage as I do, try to slow roll it a little bit more, and make sure that you're waiting on your Obsidian Claw, you're waiting on your Cyclotronic Blast, until you proc the last two Huffers. At that point, you can then make a better judge of, do you want to burn one down, fear, stun, paralysis the other, or do you want to be able to just burn boss, have the sufficient gear and resources, and keep on going. For Corruption, I was running with a Gushing Wounds and a rank 1 Twilight Devastation. These were extremely helpful, in addition to the Twisted Appendage. So basically, all three of those Corruptions, Gushing Wounds, Twisted Appendage, Twilight Dev, are really, really strong for running Horrific Visions. Twilight Dev is probably the strongest, but Gushing Wounds is probably the most consistent. So while you can get a really big Twilight Dev and just obliterate a pile of mobs, more often than not, it's very important for you to use your Crucible charges, to use your Corruption to your advantage, to quickly focus down particular mobs that are irksome, that are painful to deal with. That way, all you have to deal with after that is just simple melee strikes. After dealing with those simple melee strikes, you can just continue spinning, continue multi-dotting, continue AoEing, and then you'll be able to take them down. Of course, if you've already taken your time to clear out the Valley of Strength, that makes it very easy for you to, once again, go up the stairs, kill the next elite, and then go into the Valley of Wisdom here, where you're going to be able to quickly get that elite kill and then start working your way up to the mobs in the zone. Much like the end of the drag into the previous valley, you're going to really quickly get elite kill after elite kill here. So trying to make sure that you can get a good bundle of mobs in together, kill them off very quickly, identify any extra potions in this area that might give you some more sanity, or even taking advantage of a kebab before you fight the first boss is really helpful. Again, your sanity drain is going to depend on the level of your cloak, but the higher level cloak that you have, the more you'll be able to take your time and not rush too much. Keep in mind, at this point, I haven't used any orbs. Don't be afraid to use orbs, especially if it means that you're going to more easily be able to clear out more trash, or be able to take your time so you can engage a boss fight with your Gift of the Titans properly. As you're seeing right here, I'm really slow rolling the Burrowing Appendage and Willbreaker right now, so that way I can immediately go into the Void Crazed Hulk with my Gift of the Titans proc and not lose any sanity off of the throw that he does into the Explosive Leap. Once again, slow rolling these bosses is built off the back of two things. It's waiting for Gift of the Titans And doing so, you start trying to run around, find odd crystals, or you clear out every bit of trash. And also making sure that you stabilize your sanity by constantly looking out for any of the potions with the potion tracker weakora, as we mentioned, and making sure that you're most able to quickly and efficiently chase after any of those extra sanity gens, sanity gains, and chests. That way, by the time that you encounter the next elite, you'll be able to really kill it quickly and not have to worry about the negative side effects of the Daredevil mask, which will make you take even more sanity drain from other sources. You have a Mind Carver pack right here and one Dominator. This is actually a pretty decently challenging pack if you don't have a lot of burst damage. So what I'd really advise on this one is taking advantage of any crowd control that you have. If you're a monk, probably dropping paralysis onto one of them can be really helpful while you focus down the Dominator, and then you can start killing off the Mind Carvers together. One of the big things whenever you have a laden foot is Mistweaver's super strong with this, especially with Tiger's Lust, but it's also really strong whenever you have Transcendence. If you get into an area where you're kind of just backed into a corner, don't know where to go, and could get stunned or lose a massive amount of sanity, that is a really good area for you to use your Transcendence, get back to a safe location, and then be able to re-engage with those mobs. Hunting again for those odd crystals, I found both of them in the huts, one of them by the main one and one of them in the side one next to the auction house. The locations can vary from bit to bit, and I can have a link in the description talking about all the different locations. At the end of it, you will basically get a whole heap of mementos that'll further accelerate your path towards getting all of the unlocks and then getting more mementos for sockets a little bit later on. As you deal with the last boss, Vezok, in this zone, important to note that he does have a lot of ads, but it's also a lot of stutter stepping that are going around. Try to move very quickly out of the way of some of those mobs, and then stop. You move out of the way of any of the void orbs, you move out of the way of his frontal, and then you stop. And being able to consistently sort of stutter step at that point is really helpful for making sure that you're staying consistent on this fight. Because I had extra time, because my sanity cloak, for example, is quite high, I did take advantage of the moment here to quickly paralyze one of the Dominators, quickly kill the other one off, and then fully clear out this zone so that I don't have to worry about any of them. Another big benefit is actually getting some of these mobs down and proccing Gift of the Titans like I did there. It completely stops any sanity loss in the zone, which is extremely effective whenever you're in the lost areas as well. Gives you more time to explore, gives you more time to look around, make sure you hunt down any chests without having to feel like you're draining and losing sanity more and more and more. With entering the Valley of Spirits right here, again, I'm trying to look and see if, for example, the NPC spawned out of the transmog station. If it spawned out of the transmog station, then I will not have a buff from the Valley of Spirits. The Valley of Spirits has an NPC that you're seeing right around this area called Bwemba, and she will give you a haste buff. She also does a polymorph, so it's really important to focus her down quickly. And as a healer, you have a pretty unique capability of tunneling mobs down very rapidly and making sure that you can get the kills quite quickly. But, like I mentioned, she is not there, so we don't have to worry about it. So instead, I'm taking the time to start looking around and seeing if there's an odd crystal in that first central hut. Now that I find there isn't, I quickly kill off that Tormentor and start working on the Greater Void Elemental. The Greater Void Elemental is one of the primary reasons why you don't want to run with Grand Illusions. You don't want to run over 40 Corruption, because if the debuff lingers on you from that Void Elemental, you take more shadow damage. You have one of the things from Beyond Spawn, and it can just instantly one-shot you because you're taking so much extra shadow damage at that same time. While usually you do have the odd crystal in one of those huts that you can see right at the beginning, I also opted just to check the top. I don't believe this is one of the regular recognized areas of it, but I thought just to check it to be safe, because again, you want to be able to have that constant chain of sanity from Elite Extermination to make your life that much easier. Again, checking the different huts to see which of the potions are around will make it a lot easier for you to stabilize your sanity and always have cooldowns at your disposal to be able to clear through the mobs quickly. I ran Focused Thunder, for example, on my Mistweaver, so that way I'd get another charge of Rising Sun Kick and more easily be able to start killing specific focused mobs that I wanted. There's another odd crystal here in the second hut on the left. Getting the quick kill onto any of the mobs that are guarding it, going up the stairs, and of course taking it down from there. As you're entering into this final area in the Valley of Spirits, you do have the potential for some of these larger pulls, but keep in mind that the shamans and tormentors can be particularly annoying to deal with. The shamans can be dropping the totem that's grabbing you and grasping you in, whereas the tormentors are just pulsing shadow damage, and a lot of times, if you knock them back, it doesn't fully interrupt them as well. Now, making sure that even if you have to drop a crowd control on them or paralysis and deal with them later, that works too. Now, one of the negative effects from one of your masks is spawning these horrific figments if you're dropping below 50 sanity. Or sorry, 50% sanity, excuse me. These horrific figments can be quite annoying, and you'll find yourself getting into combat, looking behind you, and you have this big faceless one lumbering after you. While they're really particularly annoying, they also can be very useful. Try to see if you can leverage these for specific boss fights, especially if you're soloing and you know that the mobs have lower amounts of HP. This is a really good opportunity for you to be able to hold on to that mob, just step out of any void zones that it creates, and then hold it for Gift of the Titans later on. This will make it a lot easier for you to be able to consistently proc it and avoid extra sanity drain that you do not want. A lot of times, for example, you'll see people who enter a boss fight without proccing Gift of the Titans, and they end up proccing it on that boss fight. As a result, they incur a much larger gap of sanity, and as you're seeing, even though I've got 189 sanity, I will engage with the Oblivion Elemental because I do have the Gift of the Titans proc. Now, if you're looking at any of those fences that you walk up towards, they are actually line of sight negating spots, or I guess they're path available negating spots. And what I mean by that is if you stand on top of some of those pillars and you stand on top of some of those fences, you will actually have your hopelessness spawn directly on top of you. If you find a good way to get yourself into one of these corners, stand on one of the fences, it's extremely helpful for making sure that you're going to be able to quickly and consistently get your hopelessness removed and begin to DPS once again. Once you collect all of the odd crystals for the zone, you'll be able to turn it into the ethereal, which would be on one of the last huts on the right side in the Valley of Strength. Make sure that you loot that chest first. That way you'll be able to collect all those mementos, and then you'll be prepared for engaging with the Voidbound Honor Guards, and then finally dealing with Thrall after that. I have to use one of my orbs right there to just engage with that Honor Guard. And for this, it's basically trying to focus, interrupt any of those Honor Guards before they drop a really big fear on you and make your life absolutely miserable. As Mistweaver, you've got your stun, you've got your knockback, and you've got paralysis to better assist you. And if you're able to time it correctly, you can get Gift of the Titans before you enter the boss fight, but perhaps more optimally, you can have Gift of the Titans as you start the fight by killing off one of the Void Boars very quickly. If you have a lot of damage at your disposal, you can immediately engage with both of the Void Boars at once. If you're less confident on your damage, it's probably best to look for Hibernate, Paralysis, something like that, even a Fear Bomb, and let the fear linger there to get rid of the Void Boars, kill them off one by one, and then start engaging with Thrall. Now that Thrall has all of the different abilities of the previous bosses, probably one of the biggest ones is that Cry of the Void, that shell that you have to break. It really doesn't incur too much sanity drain. So if you already have, for example, your Resurrection, your auto-res that you've saved up, you may even just want to pace yourself and not dump all the damage that you can into that shield, so that way you can kill the boss more rapidly. But at this point, I tried to break it, and I still incur an extra 18 to 20 sanity reduction as follows. There's not too much spell queuing issues that you have there, especially if you pop Bloodlust, pre-pot, all of the other options at your disposal. You should be able to get Thrall down without an issue. It's just most about sidestepping and being consistent about sidestepping a lot of those mobs. If you have any sort of questions, feel free to let me know in the description below or in the comments down below. Otherwise, I wish you guys great luck in your 5-mask runs, especially from a healer standpoint. Try to be patient. Try to make sure you're going in with Gift of the Titans when possible to best negate a lot of those negative effects. And I wish you guys some big, big luck in your corrupted bonuses. Thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope you all enjoyed it, and I'll catch you all next time.